Kathy. Then we'll walk.
We're good to go. So good morning. It's Wednesday, September 10th at 11:04, and I'm going to call the Climate Action Committee meeting to order. We will go around and just introduce who is here. So Debbie Francis, I'm the chair, Councillor District 5, and we'll go to my left and go around.
Thank you, Chair. I'm John Ogilvie. I'm the Climate Action Coordinator for the municipality.
Jim Idy, Councillor for Windsor South, District 11.
Bonnie Smith, Councillor for Windsor North, District 10.
Todd Richard, Director of Public Works for the municipality.
Harley Roshan, Director of Financial Services with the municipality.
Kathy Keogh, Director of Community Development with West Hants Municipality.
Carrie Fougier, Acting Director of Planning and Development with the municipality.
Mark Phillips, Chief Administrative Officer for the municipality.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We'll move right along to 2. I'm looking for approval of the agenda and any additions or deletions, if there should be any.
So move.
Moved by Director Richard. Is there a seconder? Seconded by CAO Phillips. All those in favor, signal by raising our hands. Motion carried. Thank you. Approval of the minutes from April 9th. They were attached, so if there's no changes, we will approve them as circulated. All good? Perfect. Moving right along to new business, 4.1, recommendation report, 2026-27 committee work plan. And John Ogilvie, you're going to discuss that for us.
Thank you, Chair. So for the committee today, I have one recommendation report regarding the 2026-27 work plan for the Climate Action Committee. Based on the committee's terms of reference, we are required to submit a work plan to council annually. So staff have drafted up a proposed work plan for the next fiscal year, and one of the major recommendations this time is to change it to a fiscal year work plan instead of based on the calendar year, so that it better aligns with the existing municipal operations that always go with the fiscal year. Should help align us with budget timing and everything as well. As in addition to that, this work plan as circulated to the committee doesn't have to go to council at their next meeting. So there is some wiggle room for the committee to discuss, to add or delete anything in the work plan for the next meeting in November, if the committee wishes to make any changes before taking it to council for being placed on file.
Perfect. So it was circulated in the package. So are there any questions on the plan for John at this time? Seeing.
Yeah. Sorry, being a little bit slow.
No problem.
Out of the gate here. I did make a few notes, I guess, to your comment, John, about changes between now and November, which I know that budget process is going to start with public input in October, and we've literally just come out of our budget process, if I can say, a couple of months ago. It's hard to believe we're about to start it again, but it's a good thing to get it. And I think as well, going to the fiscal is a positive thing, which sort of lines up with this timing. And if you get that done between now and November, that's a really good thing. In my mind, I still go back to, I think, perhaps initial comments that I made, that if we look at the most significant potential issues here within West Hants and things that we could do that would make a difference, where residents would actually see, electric charging stations are good for those who have electric vehicles, and which we know is small. And I'm not meaning to be critical or diminish that. I'm just going to what are the key issues within our region. I think if I were to say flooding, stormwater, and drought would probably, and drought is more recent. I don't think we said the word drought in here until like over, you know what I mean? In the last number of years, it was always potential, but I think it's really in a way, much more clear. Even with the wildfires we had a few years ago in Tantalon, and now it's on the other side of, and you just, so I just wonder if we need to think about what our focus here is heavily on GHG gas emissions and things that are really positive towards a better, greener environment, but can we get a greater focus on those initiatives? And I don't know the answer to that here today. I just know in going through it and thinking about what you've just said, that is there something that we should be looking at that has those two matters? There's a couple notations in here for the Falmouth and the Hansport flood plan or stormwater plan. I think they're noted as specific initiatives, which came out of the studies that were done. I know that we're still working on the Windsor plan, which will ideally be concluding sometime in the short term, and to then see work being done and focused on that, because just to my way of thinking, I don't feel when I'm going through the plan that I'm thinking that we've got the flood and now the drought piece incorporated enough, for what it's worth. Open to any other comments on that, but at a high level, that's kind of where I'm thinking.
Any comments on that, folks? J.O. Phillips?
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I mean, we've been talking about the droughts a little bit. A few of us talked about the dry hydrants. I know that is be associated with firefighting, generally firefighting, but it is a form of preservation of water. I think there's probably a debriefing exercise, and we were talking about this on the side of our meeting last night after this drought, to do some reflection on not so much the water utility side of it. There might be, we have a process underway there, a study that's about to happen, hopefully. But using the dry hydrant as an example, could the municipality be a partner, which probably ends up landing in this action plan and provision of access points for water haulers in rural areas. So, it may, I don't know that it's as simple as this, but, a driveway, a little bit of gravel, and some kind of infrastructure similar to a dry hydrant, but more adaptable or compatible with a water hauler, where they can pull up to either an approved site or a site that we have helped designate. So there's all these little things that we may not be providing the water, but we're helping provide access. And it's really could be potentially a fairly straightforward thing for us to do. So looking at your action plan, that may go under resiliency, your increased resiliency for climate change induced risks. So it's home flood protection, it's dry hydrant creation, it's water hauler access points. Their current issues, quick for us to respond and think about. So those might be things that you add to a work plan for this year. So I think, John, you're on point. It's just, what is everybody else thinking? And I guess that's what Jim is saying. Let's challenge ourselves a little bit here and see if there's some current things or things that maybe are a bit more meaningful or impactful because of the new normal that we're living in. So just a thought, but that could be an amendment to your action plan as well. Yep.
Director Richard?
Yeah, great points and good suggestions. And one thing sometimes we lose sight of is, what are we doing that may not be identified in our climate action change. One is the integrated resource plan. I discussed it a bit last night. We're really hoping that that's going to be a large endeavor by a consultant once that's done, and that's going to. It's more or less going to take, because we have a lot of studies out there. It's going to, I think we listed up to 40 studies that we have. And for that consultant, it's going to be to take all these studies, stormwater, water capacity study, waste studies, and then putting that into a longer term plan up to 2050. So things for protections for drought, future water capacities, because we're at the point, and we always said since 2020, since the birth of this new regional municipality, development certainly has been quite aggressive, and we're not used to that in our previous identities of Town of Windsor and the district. So we need to be able to plan for those things, along with climate change projection, drought, floods, all those things. So we're really hoping that we'll get a good consultant to incorporate that plan because that's going to identify these long range things and then what we can do for greenhouse gas emissions and everything else. So we're really, again, so I think that we should identify that integrated resource plan. That'll be closing in, I think, a week from tomorrow. So then we'll see the bids and it'll come back to council for awards. So, yeah.
Anyone else? Director Rashawn?
Through Madam Chair to John. The climate action plan is really great. I think that as we're working through, we're making small steps. So I just want to make sure that. So is the purple tasks on there? Are these new? Like I noticed that the year is kind of on the side there. So are these relatively new? And then we have our yellow tasks, which are either ongoing that we've been setting and our completed tasks. So where did those purple tasks, when we talked about them before, those came from those planning sessions that we talked about?
So the purple tasks typically either come from our GHG emissions local action plan. Some of them carry over, like two that have carried over from last year's work plan are the Explore Building a Solar Energy Project and Explore Developing a Municipal Climate Budget. Those are two that we haven't finished in the current year's work plan. So they remain in the task to complete section.
Okay.
Others come from actions I'm suggesting as I view through my work on a day-to-day basis and what I bring to the committee on an annual basis, what we may need or what I suggest that the committee may want to look for and do.
Okay.
For example, one of them updating the GHG emissions inventory. It's been 5 years since our emissions plan was released. We have 4 years to our deadline for our goal that council has adopted. So I think now is a prudent time in this coming year to review that inventory of emissions that we have and see where we're at now. Because since then, the municipality has divested itself of some buildings and facilities that were in the old inventory. Has built new facilities that weren't included in the new old inventory. And there's been a lot of changes in the community section as well, right? In development and everything. So I think that would be something that's prudent to continue to update, sort of as an update to it and more of a live document in a sense. Just because of that timing. That's where that suggestion comes from, and that's where a lot of these kind of land.
Okay, that's awesome. Going through the ongoing goals and what we have kind of on the go and what our partners are doing, it's great to see. And I do see a lot of benefit for, various, because of course, climate action can include multiple things and multiple definitions, but this list just continues to grow. Like we just keep adding to this, correct? Okay. The only other comment I have on here is under one of our ongoing projects, we have a reference to our former committee name, MCAP. So I just wanted to let you know for when we finalize it for council.
If I may, through you, Chair, is that under implement the MCAP? Yeah, okay. I believe that refers to the actual original plans. So the name shouldn't have to change. However, I have kind of considered maybe if for the next iteration of the work plan coming on next year, doing a very detailed review of each of these action items and kind of like Director Richard was mentioning, doing a more wholesale review of which ones and where we're at again, so that we can, looking at that, an MCAP is still valid because there are most recent right now plans along those lines. But maybe in the future they won't be, and we'll have to change that, right? So, yeah.
Any other questions? I do have a comment. I do think the drought and should be brought in, but I would think that this would tie in really planning public works when any projects are ongoing, that there's consultation between what's good for greenhouse or climate action change through if we're building something or anything that's ongoing with Tricrothic with the CIBL. So they probably all tie in. So maybe there's a way, if there's a goal that the committee wants to see added in, can tie that in for like dry hydrants, like what CAO Phillips said, and incorporate it in a new goal. I think that's what you're looking for, Jim. And then in the flood, I think the CBL, I mean, we're just sort of overlapping. It's being done, but it's not being identified maybe in our plan. So if there's some way we can incorporate the two, would that suffice?
Well, absolutely. And in re-reviewing it here this morning, that there is a reference here into the Windsor flood aspect.
Yeah.
Falmouth and Hansport were together and Windsor wasn't. So it just was blanked out of my head, but it is in here. And so I think it's just, visually on that, but it equally goes to, so when we're talking flooding here, top of mind for us, of course, because of the nature of what we've seen over the last 5 years. We've seen flooding in different ways that our attention and focus has been on what I'll call the big areas, and whether it's Stannis, Garish, Gray, what we've seen take place in other communities around here, out in 3 Mile Plains and, Eller's House and the like. So there's those aspects to it, but then there's other aspects to flooding, and it's been dealt with the pilot project for home flood protection and those things. It's that just somehow it still seems to be light in that regards. So, and I could be wrong on that. Like I'm open to, to that as well, but that's the reason that I raised the flooding. But with that comes the drought piece. And on the drought side of things, and again, we've only, as close as it was previously, certainly closer as we're getting the smell of smoke here this summer and some ashes dropping in and the likes, that it starts to prompt thinking that as we've continued to expand into the rural areas of West Hants and the resource areas where now we're adding even more windmills in, and that we've had that conversation about concerns with the windmills and more cottages and more camps and the like, that increases our risk out in the more heavily wooded forested areas. And so what do we need to do to identify those greater risk areas? And if we were to get hit with fire here, how well prepared would we be for that? Do we need to think about, for those who do forestry in the area, about getting purpose-built breaks within the forest line, where you do clear cut a swath of whatever, depth or width in order for future prevention? I don't know, maybe that's already done. That's not my life. I've never, but it's that kind of thinking that we will have done or thought of, or at least had a plan on what the best way is. If you need to get a cut in there, we've got rivers here that serve a certain point, but that's not enough, as we know, with the rivers and the lakes that they're coming across up. And so that's the reason that I'm saying that, is that right now we've got the benefit of, with clear thought and clear minds, to be able to think about what we might do. And it's really an odd coin when you look at it. It's either we've been hoping for rain, but not so much rain that it would cause people to flood. But it's a real. So it's just to get that balance that we're not missing that, I think, for what it's worth. That's my initial thoughts, and I wish I had more, or put more pen to paper on it. But
put Carrie on the spot here for a moment. Because I think what Jim had mentioned, there's a mix of things in there. There's emergency response, there's firefighting, there's all kinds of stuff in that, right? But I think you intend to highlight some of the current issues that you've either have language for or that you want to get council's feedback from. So generally, are climate related items, or any of those items that Jim might have mentioned, or even in that category, things that you want to talk about next Thursday night with council? Because I know, like, floodplains and this kind of introduction, quite frankly, of some of this language that we haven't had before. So will you be hitting on any of that next week with council and some of that stuff?
Yeah, so as most of you are aware, we are working on the plan review project. So that's a new municipal planning strategy, a new land use bylaw, and a new subdivision bylaw, which can work all together to help kind of address some of these climate adaptation type things. So some of the new things coming out of that is a different approach to stormwater management, those types of things, concentrating more of our density into growth centers and less into rural areas, and And that's kind of the approach that we're taking to start to address this. I know coastal protection has also been a hot topic. It's not something that we've dived greatly in through this version, but it's something that we plan on working on as we get more information from the province on the work that they're doing with coastal flood mapping. Anything kind of beyond that, it definitely, a lot of the climate adaptation type goals can really be implemented into planning strategies and land use bylaws. So, with studies and documents like the integrated resource master plan, like we can take a lot of information out of there and integrate it into planning policy where you'll actually see some on the ground impacts on how to manage some of these things. So but yes, we are starting to lay the framework on a few different things like the stormwater management and floodplain protection, or kind of restricting development in certain areas and that type of thing through the plan review. And the plan review should be coming um, into the public realm, I guess, within the next couple of months. So we're starting with a council workshop next week, and then we'll kind of go from there, bringing forward to the public and then through the approval process.
Perfect.
Well, just like, I'm thinking there may be some conversations, and I know, John, you're looking for your 26, 27 work plan. I think you've given us a little bit of space, recognizing the fiscal thing. So there might be some conversations within the next month that may influence this, or we come back on November 12th and say, you know what, it looks good. We don't see the need to change this. Let's recommend it to council. So I just think some of these conversations are going to contribute to it. So
Yeah.
unless there's a sense of urgency, I guess as a committee member, it's probably something that we could revisit on the 12th, and it doesn't change, or it might, but that would be my thoughts.
Well, that sounds good. If you're okay with that, John, I think from the committee, I think it's been identified. We have a plan, and it sounds like the things that have been asked are coming via another stream. So are you good with that? I'll let you speak on that.
Thank you, Chair. I think it appears the committee's kind of in agreement that we would like a little more discussion and addition regarding drought and adaptation. So I think I can brainstorm ideas for addition in that sense, and work with other staff to kind of come up with some ideas around that and some specifics for the November meeting. Certainly, like CAO Phillips mentioned, I think with that coming forward, like Director Fougere mentioned, I think that's going to involve a lot of this, and it may some of these boxes may be checked off within a few months of next year, right? Based on those sorts of things. So an example I can give is the level 3 EV chargers with Nova Scotia Power. We had put that in our work plan last year, and they were accomplished within less than 5 months of that work plan, just because of the timing, right? So I think that may be a similar thing in some of those boxes that might be checked off or helped through that process. But I can certainly take that back and come up with some ideas around those things based on the feedback of the committee. And yeah, I certainly intended to build in some wiggle room around this so that we could have some of these discussions and add in what the committee sees fit for a work plan. I would like to note too, in terms of adaptation, like there are 2 items in the to complete section that may address some of those as well, going forward, if those are something that council desires to go forward long term. Like as an example, recapitalizing and expanding the PACE style program for adaptation style financing is an item in the to complete section that I've suggested. I'm aware of funding that may be coming from FCM for projects like this. And that can be geared towards all kinds of adaptation initiatives for an individual's home, whether it's flood protection, which is a great segue from our home flood protection pilot program, whether it's a roof that's built stronger for wind resilience in stronger hurricanes and storms, or whether that's drought protection in installing a cistern or help assistance in drilling a well or something like that. So those initiatives are also there for that purpose. And I certainly try to adapt my focus both on adaptation and mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions as equally as I possibly can.
Okay, perfect. So we're all good with that. Excellent. Okay, so we'll go business arising from the minutes. 5.1, update amended CAC terms of reference. John?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to highlight for the committee, because this was an item in our last agenda that the committee just wanted an update on where we were with that. So the updated terms of reference for the Climate Action Committee were approved by Council at the end of May as a package of amendments to the meeting and committee procedural policy. And so those new terms of reference are posted to the website and everything for the public and the committee to view.
Perfect. Any questions? None. 5.2, flood risk infrastructure and investment program application.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to inform the committee, I believe on the last agenda, I had noted for the committee that I was looking to apply to the FRIP program through the provincial government. Our application for assistance in funding the home flood protection pilot program was unsuccessful. However, there might, Director Richard would have probably more information, but I know Public Works was successful in receiving some funding from FRIP for some Cold Drive stormwater projects. So there is that as an update.
Okay, anything to add on that? No. 5.3, home flood protection pilot program. John?
Thank you, Chair. So as an update for the committee on this pilot program, participants have received their home flood risk assessment reports. Those were distributed to them in August in electronic format, and any of them that needed printed copies, I print them here at the office for them to pick up. But currently, the participating homeowners are gathering quotes at their own volition, and I prepare quote summaries for the CAO's approval based on our policy for the program that we have, the eligible upgrades, and recommendations from their upgrade report through the Clean Foundation. So that's where we're at currently with that.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none. 5.4, zero emissions transportation feasibility study.
Thank you, Chair. As an update again for the committee on this study, most of you would already know, I took a RFP award recommendation report to committee of the whole last night for approval to recommend WSP Canada as the successful proponent following Council's final decision on the 23rd of this month. Staff will then issue the award letter to the successful proponent, and we will go from there, beginning the study to get to work on that.
Perfect. No questions, no lights. So that brings us to 6.0, a roundtable discussion. So this is an opportunity if anyone has anything else they would like to add. I won't put you all on the spot, but if anyone has anything they would like to share at this time.
Question, Madam Chair. John, just to confirm, and we're talking about our greenhouse, our footprint. We're not only calculating initiatives of the municipality, but I'll use the word credit. We're calculating in the wind farms and calculating solar, say at King's Edge Hill, all towards our target. Like we're getting credit. We're doing that internally, but we're getting credit for community and municipally led initiatives. That's how you're evaluating that and calculating that, just to confirm.
John?
Through you, Chair, to CAO Phillips. Yeah, so essentially, that's part of when the emissions inventory was completed, the baseline inventory, and then through the plan, the emissions assessment and where we would land in 2030 based on our target. The baseline of that indicates the municipality would only have to complete a subset of options to actually achieve that goal, right? So we have a 45% emissions reduction goal for both community and corporate emissions by 2030. For corporate, the municipality is only responsible for 44% or for 1%, sorry, of that 45. It's because of initiatives such as Nova Scotia Power greening the grid and providing more electricity to our operations that is green, right? So in that emissions accounting, that 1% is specific municipally led initiatives. And then on the community side, it's very similar in the sense that something like those EV chargers, while they are owned and operated by Nova Scotia Power, the municipality assisted in facilitating them. So we can help to claim credit in our emissions accounting. And while things like the solar that Kings Edge is looking to install, it may not apply directly to the municipality's portion. It does show, right, that community emissions on the community's initiative is decreasing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wondering if there's a creative way, like a pie chart or a pie graph. If there's a way to, if we're fundraising, you watch this thing and it goes up.
Yeah.
And everybody gets a little excited, or they buy into it a little bit. If there's some way for us maybe to consider something like that too, not just for the benefit of the committee, but maybe it's kind of a broader community challenge. Something like that could be something we'll add to your table. Think about it that way. But these visual things, right, help to show transition in our community. And some of these are council policy led, which we're not boots on the ground, but because we enable, and some of them are direct initiatives that we undertake. So feels like it could be a positive
And it could be in our newsletter.
positive thing. Yeah, something like that.
Good thoughts.
Okay.
Director Fougier.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a couple updates. I believe I provided updates on some of the wind farm applications at previous meetings. So we do have the Bear Lake Wind Farm application coming for the end of this month at council for public hearing and second reading. So final decision by council then. And we also just got word that the Benjamin Mills wind farm project, they're starting their phase 2 construction this fall, and that consists of 3 turbines. So we'll see some development happening out there on that wind farm. And then just a note, we have a lot of new interest in solar or community solar projects coming on board. So a lot of inquiries around large scale solar projects that serve the community essentially. So we're working on through the plan review project, some policy and land use bylaw provisions to allow that, because it's not something we have in our current documents. So working on that. So we might be seeing some of those applications coming forward sometime next year.
That is very good news. I've been waiting for one of those. Director Richard.
Just a couple updates related to the Climate Action Change Committee. So one is we have applied for installation of a rain garden at the Windsor Library. They're looking at between Halifax and Windsor. So we haven't heard yet. We'll be successful, but that would be a nice little project related to stormwater control. And the other one, John and I had a meeting with Carmichael, our standing offer, related to the ops building at for Public Works Community Development. So we did have to pivot on that building, and one of the pivots we had to do is a new heating system for the existing building, and we were hoping to have that with the larger facility. So in talking with their standing offer consultant, Carmichael, they suggested we look at the potential for biomass to heat that facility, because we needed to have a heating system that could be expanded easily. And biomass is being heavily promoted by the province for their facilities, any community colleges, hospitals. It was a really great presentation, and knowing that it's carbon neutral, that surprised me. These things are very efficient. The capital cost, however, is quite large, but the operating costs are quite small. So, compared to electricity or fossil fuels, much lower cost. And it also, it's a broad range, because some of the things Councillor Ivey talked about, with forests and our issues with around the forest market. This biomass is sometimes most likely the unmarketable stuff, the stuff that may get left behind if they're doing a silviculture or clear cut. So they're able to utilize all that stuff so it doesn't get left in the undergrowth. So it's promoting for forest protection and prevention of forest fires. So it was really good. So now we're doing the life cycle analysis through the consultant. So hopefully we'll have something to come back and possibility for, council to consider, that usage. So I have not experience, but the Valley Regional Hospital is fully heated through biomass, so wood chips. It's either a wood chip or a wood pellet. So I don't know if I missed anything, but it was very interesting discussion there. When was that? Yesterday or Monday? Yeah, Monday. Yeah.
Interesting. Director Rashawn.
I don't have any updates, but I just wanted to share that I've been receiving some comments about the electronic car charging stations. And it's very positive. They were excited to see them in our community, and I just thought I'd share that with the committee. So hopefully we get more.
That an invitation for more money? Oh, okay. Just thought check. Perfect. Okay, that's great. Councillor Ivy?
Yeah, just in that vein, I was going to raise it because we talked about it the last time, but just if we can get a slice or a view of what the use of our charging stations has been like. And with the new one going in and with what we've had there, I think we're a couple of years now, and maybe it's November that we can look at that just to see what kind of an uptake we're taking. Does that get factored in for our calculations on improvements in the area and so on, right? So.
Go ahead, John.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Ivy. So I am intending on bringing that to the committee in November. I'll have two information reports for the committee in November. One is an update on the PACE program, because it'll be 2 years of it in November, as well as the level 2 EV chargers that the municipality owns. That'll be 3 years of them in November. They were installed at the end of October, so the timing's quite good in terms of that. But yeah, and in terms of emissions accounting, the emissions reductions achieved through those, we account for as municipal reductions. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Great.
Perfect. Seeing no other lights, so that takes us down to public comments, and we have nobody from the public. So our next meeting is November the 12th, 2025. And John, do you have something to add?
I do. Thank you, Chair. We're having a grand opening for our EV fast charging stations with Nova Scotia Power at the sports complex on Friday afternoon from 1 to 2. So I know the invite went out to council. If any members of the committee or anybody would like to attend, it will be public. So if anybody would like to attend, that'd be great to see you there.
Great.
Yeah.
Councillor Ivy, did you have something else? Nope. Okay.
We should have e-bikes. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
E-bikes.
Yeah, go for it.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. As CEO Phillips mentioned, we do have 3 e-bikes that have been used in and around by staff to transit between this office building and the office building at King Street. I know the rec department is working to identify a community-based e-bike option here in Windsor. So that will certainly be something that will be integrated, for example, with our zero emissions transportation feasibility study, so that enables people to get around in a more active form of transportation. As council saw last night, we have a new AT plan as well. So these things are starting to come together, and those will help people get around without causing emissions, but also in a manner that's maybe a little faster than walking, and very active as well. So
Perfect. So do we own the e-bikes? We own 3 of them.
Yep.
Wow.
We want to start.
Late.
We want to set the example, right? That was kind of the thought behind it. One is pink, so you can't miss it. But I know Kath in her team.
Uses that one often.
Reality is
Yeah,
it
for the
often?
complex up to King. She's on that just
Yeah.
about every trip she makes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I think you're doing some work in the crossing, trying to get those. I know we're kind of dipping into community development a little bit, but
Yep.
we just kind of see that as a community too, that is perhaps a good pilot community to be mobilizing and to be moving around a little bit more, or in a way that can promote because of the demographic that's in there, right? I mean, they're generally folks that are mobile. That's, I guess, redefinition of our senior population. That the one before may have been more, I shouldn't say this, but it's being recorded, more interested in cards and darts. Now we're just a little bit more of a society that is doing more recreation. So we're hoping the e-bike thing catches on a little bit, not only municipally, but within the community. So we just let's start with being a good example. So, yeah.
Well, I think we should see some videos of that, of staff or CAO or Director Keogh going from one complex to the other. It should be on our Inspire West Hants Facebook page. CAO, do you want to take the take one for
I get-
we can get it on this afternoon.
Sure,
You
you
can go to the
can
courthouse.
throw a pie in my face at the same time.
No,
That's
no.
all good.
No.
I just mean we'll do whatever it takes.
I
Absolutely.
think videos of those, that would be wonderful to promote that and have our staff going around. So that's good to know. Anything else? Councillor Ivy?
I'll just add to that on the e-bike and the e-scooter. And I think I talked before about my experience that they're not meant to be hit the gas when you're on gravel. And you're still not sure where the gas and the brake is. But it actually creates for a really neat environment to see those around. And if we jump ahead 10, 15 years to see and I think we're going to see a lot more of that. It becomes very, based on my experience, it becomes very Caribbean island, like where you can't rent cars. And so tourists are right. And it's a real neat environment to see those showing up in the community even more. And whether it's an e-bike or an e-scooter, either way, it's a much more environmentally friendly piece of transportation. So anything to move that, I think, is a really positive thing.
Yeah, and I believe Inverness County has rentals of them for Inverness up through Maboo and their areas. So, yeah.
Halifax has them as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
You can get them everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll be looking for those videos this afternoon. So perfect. So with nothing else left, it's 11:46 and we will adjourn this meeting and we'll see you back in November.